Anyways, welcome to the PARAcast. Robert's not here.
Sad. Tear.
Very few episodes either do not involve me or Robert. Anyways, joining us tonight. He's teaching a defensive flip-flop course next week. It's Jared Stepp.
It's actually called a chancla when it's weaponized. Flip-flops are on your feet. Chanclas are once they're in the projectiles. It's like the difference between meteor and asteroid. It's flip-flop, chancla. Same.
You
But
see,
different.
there's that
You
real.
carry extras, like you can reload.
Mhm.
Just in case.
Those are on other children.
You
pick
use
up-
somebody else's flip flop.
You pick them up by the waist with their head facing towards your back, and you strip their feet of them and just start ninja starring them. There's that one reel of that guy who's got the shoe, and some guy's making fun of him while we're videoing, and the guy takes off his shoe and just like sonic booms that thing directly right out to the camera. You just see this guy from like 15 yards just go and just hit the guy with a shoe. It's pretty great. And 30th place at Carry Optics National. He's also hit.
Come on, don't give me more credit than I need.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's also his mother's 33rd favorite person. It's Kevin Isaac.
Hey, there's good people in the world, right? Some
There's
better
at
than
least
me.
32. There's at least 32 good people.
There's two better ones. And he's been constantly reminded that you may not take a shower in the porta potty. It's Charlie Perez.
Awesome.
I don't
Folks,
think Charlie would even fit in a porta potty standing up.
What you got to enter it sideways. That's how you get in.
so I'm sitting here. I'm getting ready because I'm going down to California for a week and hang out with the kids and go to Knott's Berry Farm and do all that fun stuff. So I got to go dig in the closet to go find my my California carry piece. And by carrying it, I mean just having it handy. I would never carry it. Never. Anyways, pulling out the old, when you can only have 10, get 10 big ones, the old HK-45. So I got that thing all set up, ready to go, packing up, making sure everything's great. But I really have not done anything in guns this week, just a little bit of dry fire. So
Just a little bit.
just a little
more.
bit. Yeah,
More.
just like literally like an hour's worth of doing it, just trying to keep myself a little bit sharp in this down season of mine. But anyways, Jared, all right, fine, Kevin, go first. Go next.
I got my Italian firearms group that I got off the prize table at Carry Optics National. So
Oh,
it's nice.
Tanpo.
I shot it. It shoots really nice.
So explain
Which
to
one is
everybody
that?
what
Is
it is again.
It's the limited master 9mm. So I'm gonna have it cut for optic and try it out for LO. Maybe we'll see. So
Hold it
thanks
up,
to-
Kevin.
Thanks to Italian Firearms Group for sponsoring that.
So the holes in front of the trigger pin
They're
are,
threaded, right? So I think they're for like a thumb rest or something, right? Like it doesn't
or an
come with
optics
it, but it's-
bridge.
Or a
or
frame
it could be an
mounted?
optic. Yeah, it could be a frame mounted something. I don't know. Like it's both
Mhm.
sides, right? So
Yeah, usually that's a frame mounted optic, like an open
be.
gun kind of setup, or you
Yeah.
could do a
well,
thumb
I know
rest.
so you can get that exact gun in 40
Both
and
thumbs.
38 super comp and stuff too, right? So you need all the recoil control. 9mm is just stiff, right? That 125 power factor is breaking wrists out there.
Your thumbs.
I'm not even gonna lie. I think actually, if you had both thumbs forward on a pistol, I think that would actually do a really good job of controlling recoil. Like I think it would. You had two thumb rests. That would do a fantastic. You'd have to
Jared,
figure
you're
out how to pull
solving the
trigger.
problem we don't need to solve.
The only problem with that, Jared, is you have nothing holding the back of the gun. Because if you have two thumbs on both sides, you don't have
You don't
anything
need-
holding
Hey,
the back.
hey,
You don't need
hey,
anything.
Dude, you don't
there.
need that on the back if you got both thumbs up
Yeah,
there. Come
you
on,
got
man.
two
Don't
thumb
knock
rests,
it
Tom.
till you try it, okay?
It's like chaps. The back is always open.
Yeah, there you go.
So you got it, Kevin. This limited master thing. This is going to be for your daughter. You're going to send it off to get cut
Yep.
for an optic because everything, even if
Why
it's
not?
well, like they got iron sight divisions. Her eyes are young.
What? Iron sight divisions?
I know. Even
Ooh.
Charlie's
Ooh.
leaving them. It's officially dead. So what are you doing?
Charlie, are you out of limited now?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to tap out on the iron sights. My focal speed has just slowed down enough that it's just not, and it's a bummer. Like I resisted it as much as I could, but it's a dot world for me now.
Yeah, well, Leo switched over too, right?
That's the
Leo.
thing, everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
First
I
match
thought he
was this
gonna-
weekend. I shot with him.
Oh, nice.
Well, I think we can officially pronounce the death of the 40 caliber now that limited and USPSA is gone. So that's
I just wanted to do show and tell, so Jared can go first.
Go ahead, Jared.
I shot the slips a match, and I think I made a bad choice. I shot on Friday instead of Saturday because it had they were about 10-man squads instead of the like 15-man squads on Saturday. So in theory, it should go faster. But for some reason, like they wanted to start the match later on in the day, and so they started the match at like it was supposed to start at 11:30 technically, but golly gee, they really wanted to do a long shooters brief and shooters meeting. So they were just droning on. And I'm just like, Dan, stop talking. Oh my God. And he just kept going. And then like other guys would throw in things and somebody else was like, oh, do you have any of this? Do we have any announcements? Do we want to do this? And he just kept going. And so I think the match started at like noon. And
At
then
100 and what, 2 degrees at noon?
yeah, and then it went for about 2.5 hours. So I mean, it was fast, but the problem was it was 2.5 hours of 100 plus, and so it was just hot as balls. And I had 3 brand new cops who had never really shot a match there, and so I was trying to shepherd them for the majority of the match. So I wasn't really able to get in the groove, and I had a couple mistakes. And like there was one stage where, where you shoot, and you're trying to fall out and hit that last open target and then you do the one shot, and you're like, oh no, back up, shoot again, then you run, and my head was not in it, so I did not great, but I had one really good stage, and that was fun. And I posted that one up on Instagram because I knew that one I was going to do well at because Kevin, you know the stage I'm talking about.
Stage one, right?
Yeah, stage one. You get there, I'm like, I can do this one good. This stage, I can shoot the shit out of this stage. The other stage is not so much, but this one, great. And so it was fun. And then I did some other practice with we have a big sniper team practice next week where I'm setting up so I had to set that up for the SWAT team where we went out to the range and basically hid steel in the mountain. And yeah, that'll be fun next week. So
you have a piece of head size steel at 150 meters.
Well, it was actually funny because I was shooting at a 400 yard it was a mini C zone at 400, and we were hitting that quick. And I tried to do a double tap basically with it with my Accuracy International. And so it's just bang, run the bolt as fast as you can and shoot as fast as you can. And it was probably less, maybe a half second split at 400 yards. And so I was like, all right, we're doing good. So it was fun. But yeah, maybe if somebody had taken a waypoint training class, they wouldn't have missed.
That's not the kind of That's not the kind of advertising you want to do, Jared. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that kind of
Jared's
advertising.
like, I'll take anybody's money. Come take my class.
Abort.
Oh,
we'll edit that out in post.
So you shoot the Voodoo Priest, right? Did you shoot that?
Yeah.
You're still shooting that over the Tactical Steel Customs?
Yeah, the Tactical Customs is a lot of fun and it's good, but I'm actually going to be shooting the open, the ported barrel next week because Adam Reiser was talking some shit. And so next week, me and him are going to duel and open because he has an open minor gun, and so I'll shoot an open minor gun, and then we'll see who wins this time. Adam, you van dwelling son of a bitch.
Open minor with still slide right optic, or
yeah,
okay.
Because nobody has a frame mounted optic anymore.
No,
that's why. No one has that. Everybody has now went to slide right, even though if you have the holster, we have better technology than the slide right optic. But why?
Practical. It's practical shooting.
Why do we want to do that? What? Charlie, what'd you get? What have you been up to the past little bit of time, few weeks?
Yeah. So this yesterday, I've had to pull one of the random, very rare. I got to shoot crew cards because my wife's actually out in Vegas this weekend with her friends. It's kind of her annual thing with her girlfriends. And I'm stuck at home with 2 new puppies. So Luckily, I know the match director really well, and is like, hey man, like I want to shoot your match, but I don't want to be that guy to be like, hey yeah, can I just shoot through and then bounce? And he's like, no
Well,
problem. And
the problem is,
yeah.
Charlie, is like you're a very well known GM. Like if you were Charlie Hernandez, C-class shooter, and it's just like,
exactly.
I would just like to shoot through. Well, I got something at home to be like, all right, Mr. Hernandez, go have it. But it's like, here's Charlie Perez, Grandmaster, Super Squad level shooter, and he would like to shoot through the match.
Yeah. And that's why I don't pull that card very often, because I don't want to be that guy. Be like, yeah, that asshole just comes to my match, shoots through and leaves. You know, so.
I've seen you work matches, so there's grace that you build up, right? So for sure.
Exactly. There's a certain
amount. Yeah, there's a certain amount of community points that you build up by running matches and doing all that, and you can cash them out occasionally.
Yes.
Once every 7 years is basically when you're allowed to do something like that. You do it once a year, then you do that, then people go like, he always does that. He always does that.
Yeah. But so the interesting thing, so I shot this match, and all of you probably had an opportunity to shoot through a match where your performance is usually not the same as a normal match, because you don't get the same amount of time to marinate on each stage, walk through it and program it and that kind of stuff. So I tried my best to walk all the stages before the start of the match and try to program them, but I was definitely like shooting in more conscious mode than subconscious mode. And anytime I do that, I kind of default to like Ultron alpha mode. So it's like, I'm already going to probably screw this up because I'm not deploying enough stuff subconsciously to do it super fast. So let me just shoot a bunch of points. So I ended up shooting for the whole match. I only had 9 Charlies, and I was looking at the results afterward, and I had like 97% of the available points. And I'm like, I probably donated a little too much time on that. But the thing I wanted to point out is I'm shooting through this match, and it was just like you guys. I'm in Colorado, so it is hot. It's hot today too. So it was 101, I think.
Yeah.
And by the time like I was getting close to getting done, like it only took me like maybe 45 minutes to shoot through the whole match. And we had, I think it was 5 or 6 stages. And I felt bad. I was like, I'm going to be able to shoot this match, not be exposed to the mega hot all day. And I feel like I have an advantage that other people don't. And I don't want to be ostracized as like, oh, well, that asshole, like, of course he did good. He shot through and he didn't have to sweat all day. Exactly. But I was sweating because I'm a big fat ass, so I always sweat. So I still have the sweats going on. But the good thing is I had an opportunity to shoot a match, which is good. And this club actually just got taken over by a new match director. And we were shooting buddies way before he's a match director on this club, and he's doing a really good job at it. So it's really cool to see a new match director being successful and doing his match and kind of like rebuilding his team members to make that match successful, that kind of stuff. And I wanted to support him in that perspective of being a 100% consumer for once.
That's the way to do it. So we've had a couple weeks since Nationals, and I thought while we would have you on, we'd kind of talk about this. Are you aware of the scores that came out of Optic Nationals with Grafel and everybody else with points versus time?
Yes. Yeah. So I think, I think it's awesome with all the current USPSA drama going on that they were actually able to pull off a successful match and have the attendance that they did. Like having a field of, I think it was like 500 and something shooters.
Yep, it was.
That's an awesome, heavily attended match, which is great. So and actually, like I have a few people, local guys that went to that, and they said that the stage quality was way better than the prior year at that same range. So that's also super awesome.
Yeah, I had the same assessment. Like the stages were far superior.
Yeah, but I knew for sure that with Grafel coming over, that it's game over, guys. Like, come on, man. Like he's like a gajillion-time world champion. It's like, yeah, he's going to come to the playground and slap some kids around.
A gajillion and one now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not surprised by the results. I'm also not surprised by the way that Grafel won the match. Meaning he didn't swing for the fences on any stage. Meaning he didn't have any stage wins, and you can tell by the quantity of Charlies he shot
60
that he
Charlie.
was
Yeah,
just in. Yeah, he's
60
in coast
Charlies.
mode. He's like that cat playing around with the mouse. He's like, look at this, guys. Right. And so I think that, from a US shooters versus European shooters perspective, the results are to be expected. Like, you have 3 dudes coming over, like these dudes are full-time professional shooters, meaning their pay is based on shooting guns, right? Like, yeah, we're going to come over here and show you guys how it's done. So I'm not surprised by the results, but like European shooters versus American shooters perspective. And I'm also not surprised in the way that Griffel won the match. Because if anybody is like, I'm a big score watcher over my whole tenure of this game, and I've seen him win a lot of huge, like deep stacked matches in the same manner. Where if he does get behind, he has another gear or two to kick in to win those points back. But it looks like he never needed to do that at this match. He just kept doing his thing.
So I actually was on his squad. So I shot on his squad at Nets, and he was cool as a cucumber. He didn't change gears at all the entire match. It was just consistent. Go do what's necessary. And I mean, watching him shoot, I wasn't like, wow, right? Like, it was just clean, good shooting, right? Like, and so, that's, I don't think, I mean, I've not seen him shoot before, so I'm sure there's other levels that are there, right? But he did what was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one thing that's kind of interesting in that is obviously Gino shooting a 298 as for total time, Griffel shooting a 308 total time. And the absolutely just crushing of points, 413 A's, 60 Charlies, and 2 no penalty mics is what Eric Griffel was sitting there shooting. And then the closest things that you can find in time, like Christian Saylor shot it basically in the same exact time, and then left with 75 Charlies, 6 Deltas, 3 mics, 2 no penalty mics. And so and maybe you could speak to this, Charlie. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis kind of on the US side of just being speed. If you just get through it faster, just keep going faster, you will come out with a better score. And obviously, that's true. You can do that, but it seems like when people are hurting in a stage or think they need to make up or be a better shooter, they're thinking about, I need to get through the stage faster. When you lose 20% of the points that are available on the stage, or 15% of the points, can be a big hit.
Yeah, I think that there's very, very, very few competitors that can successfully use quote unquote push as a successful tool, right? So like, if they feel like they're behind, I'm going to push on this next stage, that usually translates to a worse performance. Mm-hmm. I personally have found that, like, we race guns just like you could race cars or bikes or whatever, right? I've found that I can deploy push in sections of a stage that are in my wheelhouse. It's like, I'm going to push, instead of shooting this section at 90, or this stage, I'm going to try to shoot at 90%. Let me try it at like 98% in this section, because this is in my wheelhouse, because that's the only level of risk I'm willing to donate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you go into a stage and you're like, I've been shooting these stages at a comfortable 90 to 95% of my capability, and then somehow you're going to just consistently hook up on the next stage where you're going to try to push it to max effort. Good luck, dude. Like,
you can't
crash and burn.
Kung Fu Panda your way up.
And let's say you do hook up, right? And I've seen this happen a lot, actually, where you have somebody that swings for the fences and they do hook up on that stage. And that means, now I can do it on every stage. And that snowballs into the biggest train wreck ever for that match for them, because now they've had a taste of success, and then they think, I'm going to try it again and again and again. And okay, you may have this stage win in the nationals, bud, but what about the next 2 stages that you finished 200?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, how many stage wins did Griffel have?
None.
0.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Just consistent.
So here's a funny statistic that I found when I first started coming up in the game. This is before practice score and all that kind of stuff, and you'd have to dig through USPSA like results and that kind of thing. And I started researching the top shooters at area matches and national matches, mostly national matches. And I'd look at the division winners of national matches, and I found, surprising to me at the time, that the dudes winning the titles were the guys that were not winning the stages.
Right.
But they would consistently finish in the top 5, top 10 on every stage, and that translated to a win.
Yeah.
Right. So that, like, Graffel's, strategy of finishing in the top 5, top 10 on most of the stages is like, that is a tried and true process. Right. And that's the crazy thing about the game we play, is that every stage run looks like a drag race, right? Because you're pushing, you want to go fast, you're doing things aggressively, but the whole match is a marathon, right? So it's really a test of consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of just brings back to the point. It's like the points and the speed are of equal value in the sport, and that's like when you sit there and you look at that and you think like, oh, well, he shot 4 more deltas than Graffel did, and he had like 2 mics more than Graffel did, but he had it in the same time. Like, it should be a little bit closer. And then you look at it in the long run, as far as like percentage wise, it's just like over the course of that match, it's not like you can't leave 40 points almost anywhere in any match and think that you're going to be successful doing it, especially in the minor.
No.
Like,
Right.
and the other part
You're
too
just-
is like, even the talent level at everyone's local club has gotten so, like, the young guys are becoming far more advanced than how it kind of took everyone else, like, of our generation of the 20s, the 2000s, to kind of get up there, and the early 20 teens to get up there. Now there's a lot of guys that can start off pretty well advanced, and there's not a lot of, what would you say, margins on the table to be picked up if you are not going to shoot consistently a lot of alphas.
Are you guys seeing that over at your club, Charlie? Because at our club, we have like this whole new crop of carry optics, limited optics shooters that are, like, realistically, they've been shooting matches for a year, maybe 2, and they've been working their asses off, and now these brand new crop of shooters they're in top 10 every single match, and they're either winning, sometimes they win the match, and like, these guys are like brand new to the sport basically, and they're killing it. Are you guys seeing that at all?
Yes. Yeah. So
Same.
definitely, like, that trend over the last, I don't know, 5 years, like the arc of improvement from ground zero, like, what is a match, to I'm actually being competitive in a match, is way shorter these days. And
Okay.
I think it's an attribution to the availability of great training content everywhere, right?
Yep.
There's also, like, these team members, like, they go out and they are attending matches, they're buddies, like, there's nobody fist fighting in the parking lots, but they're feeding off of each other, right? So if others are finding success, it's like monkey see, monkey do. There's a lot, like, if the monkeys are doing the right thing, then you're going to get a lot of monkey do that's good. So
Right.
I think that there is that going on. And I also think that the thing that's the most impressive is that I don't see people getting stuck in ruts as much as they used to, right? Where somebody would make a classification or a skill set and they would kind of hover in B class for a year and a half, 2 years before they break out of it. Like, I really don't see that anymore. That seems to be the rare occurrence. Like, people are either committed to it, finding the mistakes, fixing their mistakes, and then achieving the next level of performance. Or I see, and this is another statistic, it's kind of shocking, is that you get these people that come to matches, they do really good in a short duration, and they find out, oh, well, this is going to be the participation level I need to be to, get the performance I want, and they're out.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's just, I'll do something else that's more entertaining or more rewarding or whatever.
We've had that, but Yeah, I just always think it's interesting because like what you're saying, there's a lot of new shooters coming in here, hitting it hard and getting all the good content on YouTube, all the good content online from these good shooters, and they're coming out freaking swinging, and we're like, who the heck is this kid? And then
I did that at the match. I was like, who are these guys?
Right?
Not like to dissuade them. I just like, who are they? Like they're good.
Right.
Yep.
I haven't seen you ever before at this club. Who are you? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm a traveling instructor. It's like when Steve Koski used to just show up at IDPA clubs across the country and shit on people and then drop the mic and walk away.
The crazy thing is too is about like that is like people like it's like 150% more effort to be in the top 3% of the sport. And it's the amount of effort it takes. Like you basically have to live and breathe it. Like there's no just popping in twice a month, going in there, shooting your thing, hanging out. Like it's a big commitment. And
so I was talking to Graffel and JJ at Gear Optics Nationals. Somebody had asked Graffel like what his practice level is like leading up to a big match like that. And he's like typically kind of my normal like every day is like 500 rounds of practice, live fire. He's like, but leading up to a major, like something I'm very serious about. He's like, probably the last 6 weeks, I'm doing 1,000 to 1,500 rounds a day in live fire practice. And I was like, let me pull my calculator out real quick.
God damn.
Well,
I'm not surprised. Like, think about like if you were to ask a Olympic person, pick your sport, right? And their level of participation to be an Olympic level performer, that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like, I'm not surprised by
I'm
the
not surprised either. But it's that thing is like, well, so like I placed at 33rd at nationals, right? So that's good placement, like seriously good placement. But now I'm like, okay, well, can I push that envelope, right? What's going to take to get higher? And not that I'm going to try and not do more. I'm definitely interested in doing more. But then you're like, okay, what's the top doing? You're like, can I do that?
Well,
am I committed enough to do that? One, and then financially, can I do that? And then, do I want to do that?
Do you want to still be married?
That's
what the real.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Do you want a bed tent?
Hey, leave the bed tent out of it. All right, I have to work nights. It sucks.
I thought that was just a deprivation chamber. I wasn't sure what that was.
Same.
Just when I feel sad enough to put a bag over my head, it becomes a deprivation chamber. Anyways,
well, so I have one thing for Charlie. So I don't know. I think we've met in person at a couple of matches, but I have you to thank for my grunting at matches.
Nice.
So I used to never make a sound, but it's a mental cue now for me, right? To just apply effort. And I grunt a lot. And the guys at Nationals were making fun of me for grunting so much.
Good.
It didn't bother me, but I was reviewing the footage back from the match, and one of the guys we were shooting with, John Batista, he had like an overhead camera, right? So the same angle, and like I see him over there as I grunt, he's like I think 5 was one stage. I had 5 on it, and then, so
it just means you're getting after it, which is right.
Right.
No, that's actually a really good cue. And that's one of the things I bring up actually in my moving and shooting classes. I'll talk about like you, Leo, some of the guys will know Charlie, but I'll be like, no, like you look at the good shooters at our club, anytime they move, if you watch any of the movement of Kevin or of Leo, they're making dad noises every time they do a movement. And the reason is because, like what you said, they're doing maximum exertion. Because if you actually try your hardest to get from spot A to spot B, you will go as you run because you're going to grunt, you're going to move. And if you're just simply lollygagging from spot A to spot B, then they're like, well, where'd all my time go? How is he moving so much faster than me? And you're like, well, because he's trying, and you can tell that he tries. And then it's funny because we'll do reps and reps and reps. And then once they kind of get the idea down and they're moving from spot A to B as hard as they can, they do a grunt. And I'm like, aha, there it is.
Yep.
Well, and the other thing too, there's, go ahead, Charlie.
So I wanted to go ahead, Tom, because I was going to change the topic a little bit. But
Okay. I was just saying there's a lot of audio cues that come off of practical shooting. Like if you kind of think about it, most of the stuff we do, like we dry fire practice off of audio cues. We kind of get the sound, like the sound of the operating of the gun and the reload. Like you can sit there and turn away and like hear a bad reload. You're like bad reload, and like turn
Mhm.
you go look and like is we could feel the trigger with there's all these other cues, the movement cue and the with the tachypsychia of like not understanding the passing of time while you're moving because everyone who is slow feels like they're hauling ass, and then you watch the video and you're just like, that's terrible. And like so like
I'm a
giving
potato.
so even if it's you're always trying to do maximum the grunting, like the cueing your body to do something and giving it something to the launch off of, because a lot of the times like I build all my stage plans, like I don't overrun targets. I don't do any of that. I have my little whap whap wing wing thing before every little stage, and I memorize that stage as best as I can. And you just if you give yourself enough audio cues to stage off of, it's great. It's just like name something that you know that's going to happen consistently over and over again. It's like pick your favorite song. All it is audio cues, and you can keep time and keep pace and do everything with that and hit every note that you want if you want to sing along or if you're drumming along with it, because it's just full of audio cues. So the more audio cues you put in the stage plan, the more successful you can be.
Yeah.
Charles.
So like I really liked it, Tom. You brought up the whole like people think they're running when they're not, and like I'm a big jokester. So like one of my like this happened probably like I don't know 8 years ago, but one of the local shooters, like he would never run. You'd think that he's running, but he'd never run. And I'd RO him and I'd be like, dude, I'm gonna run faster than you and I'm gonna pretend like I'm in a geisha skirt where my knees are touching the whole time. And I'm gonna be ahead of you as the RO. And so I would run around the stage and I'd be ahead of him with my knees together, like running like I've got a skirt on. And that was actually it was a funny thing to do at the time, but that's what that shooter needed as proof of like, hey, dude, like you actually have to run. And like the whole squad loved it. They were rolling around laughing. But is something as entertaining as that was like the trigger that was needed for that given shooter to really take it home and be like, holy cow, dude, this person is running faster than me with their knees tied together. Like I need to get after it, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
One thing I did with my kids is I think I talked about it before, but so both my kids, so my son's 16, daughter's 13, getting them into shooting and stuff. And I had to do it. Just a drill. Like I'm like, I just want you to run from here to here as fast as you can. And I timed them, right? And then I'm like, okay, let's do it with a gun. And they, first run, they're like slow. I'm like, why are you slower? Like all you're doing is running, right? They're like, well, this. I'm like, okay, well, just point the gun that way and run, right? Like, yeah, maybe you can't swing your arm the same, but run as hard as you can. There's no ammo in this gun, right? It's safe. Just do this little drill. And they did it, and they're like, I can run that fast, right? Like, sometimes you need that something to like, hey, tell me, what are you doing, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, you can run. You know how to run, right? Like, this is a real thing.
The one thing with running, and I think people learned this at nationals with some of the discussion of people falling down at nationals, is like the effort, like your mind knows that you are under stress, you are running with a loaded firearm, and this range is terrain is kind of BS. And like it's lots of times it's not the running. Like we've all seen people get ahead of themselves, like really pushing forward, and then lose balance and topple forward or something like that. But stopping can be very treacherous if you're stopping and your weight goes the wrong way or a foot slides out from behind you. And so like we're always trying to balance that's our own personal safety aspect with the speed that we're going. Another thing is too, it's like I don't see a lot of us out there doing shuttle runs. And like we choose this sport for a reason.
Other than step on.
Yeah, like and there's obvious performance exercises and drills that people could do to kind of build that type of speed. But like it's you have to be a master of everything. And the one thing that you watch from like Gravel's Instagram on like that indoor training facility that CZ's built for him is like that guy gets to run around and do everything at pace, at speed, has the ammo, and he looks like it. Like if you pick anyone out of there and said like which one of these people is the Olympic level athlete in their sport, and they'd go that guy right there.
That guy.
That guy,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
that guy takes care of every little part of him. A couple questions for you, Charlie, before we head on and answer some questions. What's the LO setup? And I saw you with some new dots on your Instagram.
Yeah. So the LO setup. So I kind of predicted that there's going to be some show and tell. So this is my LO blaster. So it's a Atlas Athena. So it's a 4.6 length bull barrel style gun. I built up a 5-inch gun. I actually took one of my old my poor limited guns that didn't get shot. I put a 9mm, a 5-inch 9mm upper on it that I started with a bull barrel, but it was just too heavy. So I ended up putting a bushing barrel in it, which took out about 2 ounces out of the slide, or like the static weight of the gun. And it was still too heavy when the slide would snap back forward. So I kept chopping weight out of the slide. And crazy enough, like I purposely kept the Athena gun away from the Titan style build that I was working on, to not weigh the different things and try to replicate and just see, well, what does the end result end up being? And by the time I got them both, the 5-inch gun to the same, how I like how it tracks and shoots, the slide weights were almost identical, and the overall gun weight was within a half an ounce of each other, which I found really interesting. Basically, playing around with them in their own little universes. So maybe that's a really good indicator that I'm just really used to a certain way a gun tracks and that kind of stuff. But to basically work with two different guns and spring setups and that kind of stuff to get them shooting the same, they ended up being about the same physical weight, both in slide and frame. So that's what I'm running as far as blasters go. The thing that's shooting minor now that I've had the biggest struggle with since I've almost like a career limited 40 major shooter is the pace of shooting. So the pace of shooting in LO is, I would say, like maybe 10% less aggressiveness is like the successful pace than it is versus standard limited and major. Yeah, so and that's really from a Charlie collection perspective, and doing the math on that. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, well, if I do this drill and I do it at this pace and I'm shooting at this Charlie collection pace versus this lesser Charlie collection pace, I found that like the average, and your guys' stages are probably very similar, that the average high hit factor for a stage is usually in like the 7 to 8 range, mm-hmm. right?
Yep.
And that at a 7 or 8 hit factor range in minor, a Charlie in time is a quarter second, whereas it's half of that in major. So like
right.
a tenth of a second, so if you really think about, like I had to really think about that from an aggressive perspective to say, hey, I can't afford, it's very hard to outshoot a quarter second, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
I need to make every shot count, right? And for a decent hit. Now there's always going to be certain partialed up targets where everybody's
Sure.
going to be prone to shooting Charlies, but in the game of minor, basically anything within 10 yards, that stuff needs to be alphas all the time, not just most of the time. It's like all the time.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
It likes to rip the trigger.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops.
It looks cool on Instagram.
Well, that's
the advantage. Go ahead.
That's the math. It's just the math. Like if any one of us has had shot against one of our friends or the person that we're trying to beat, and they're a second and a half faster than us on the stage, we're just like, gosh damn it, where did I lose a second and a half? And we're trying to figure that out or whatever like that. And it's just like, well, imagine you had the same time, but you just hide the second and a half in the points, and the hit factor comes up. It's like, oh shit, well I'm only 0.3 of a hit factor behind him. It couldn't be that bad. It's the same thing. Half the points and half the time is the same score. But when we get all the way to the top, you have to collect the points.
Absolutely.
There's no getting around it anymore. Like all the divisions are minor. Like the age of aiming for brown, sending 360 grains of projectiles at it. Like that doesn't exist.
Speak for
Nope.
yourself.
So
Depends on what your
that
goal
leads
is.
in. That actually ties into the question I was going to ask Kevin. So Kevin, you had a really awesome opportunity to shoot with Griffel, so you could see his behaviors directly. So my question was, how many extra shots did that guy have?
Not many.
Like none, probably.
Not many at all.
Like, and
Well, I can't even think of some of the very far targets I think he took extras on. Not very many.
so that even further like solidifies the whole like alpha count scenario. Like, so he didn't capture that alpha count by making up Charlies, if that makes sense. Like,
right, yeah. Well, and I said this on the show last week, but watching Team CZ shoot, no shots on the move, like none. Static, clean shots, and then aggressive movement, right? Whereas, myself and a lot of other American shooters are trying to take shots on the move, and they're giving up Charlies there, right? And maybe they're making up time, maybe they're not. Several stages for myself, I didn't, right? Like I took shots on the move, called poor shots, made up the shots, which totally negated any time I was saving, right? And so, he was dialed in to do what was required to capture those points, because it's important. The time is important, yes, but he's giving up a tenth of a second to gain an extra 0.15 of a second in that Charlie alpha scenario, right? So he's saving time by spending time.
Yeah,
saving hit factor, I suppose.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
So Charlie, you're running the FTP optics, is that right? Is that the brand?
Yeah. So the Fast Toys products, and I'm not sponsored by this guy. Like, I just like supporting shooters that shoot and invest in the shooting sports. So I'm a big proponent of let's support the manufacturers that actually support the shooting sports. I've been running the model is the Alpha 3. That's their red dot, and I've had several different versions of it, both in dot size and chassis style. Like, the initial chassis style was very similar to the Sig Romeo 3 form factor in the front and the back of the chassis of the sight. And now they recently changed the form factor to be front to back identical to an RTS2. That way, for a lot of people that want to try the sight out, they don't have to get some strange plate. They can just use an RTS2 plate. But I've been shooting these for several years now, and the reason why I really like this, I settled on them, is twofold really. The first was from a parallax perspective. Doing parallax, like point of hit offset, point of impact offset versus parallax, they're one of the best sights that I found that has minimal parallax at distance. And like, for most of the shooting sports that we do, like, the stuff is close, it's really shreddy. We're not really in wonky positions where we have to shoot while the dot is not in the middle of the glass. Like, that is the far exception.
Yep.
So that's not a super big deal, but for me, like, if I am kind of folded up in a weird low port and have to take a headshot at 25 yards, I want a sight that doesn't have a lot of parallax. And some sights have a tremendous amount of parallax at that distance, right?
Yeah.
They're like, you're not hitting the head
Yep.
if the dot's not in the middle of the glass kind of scenario.
It's a big guy sight, like, it's like you're going to be the big guy in the awkward position. You're going to be the big guy in the awkward position or the position lean. And so that's a guy who's like over 6 foot, big guy, like going like, I've messed around with dots. I want parallax.
And what dot sizes you land on?
So I started out with I've tried a 4, a 6, and 8. Then I found that the bigger I went in dot, the more I could turn it down and the less flare it would have. Mm-hmm. And the less flare it had, the easier it was to call the shots at pace while it's in a streak. So right now I'm shooting a 12 MOA dot, and I've been shooting a 12 for the last year. And so I'm all in on this 12 MOA dot. And a lot of people are like, I tell them I'm shooting a 12 MOA dot, and they're like, oh my God, is that like a basketball? Like,
That's a big boy.
so the thing, like, the 12 MOA dot is 3 inches at 25 yards. That's still pretty tiny if you put it in the perspective
It's
of
average
stuff that we shoot at. So the thing that's I found, like this 12 MOA dot, it has 10 brightness level settings, and they're all kind of biased to outdoor lighting. And that's one of the things that I found. Like my second favorite sights were the SIG Romeo 3 Max or the XL from a parallax perspective, but those always had some like night vision levels and that kind of stuff that they would chew up the refined or the levels on the outdoor. So I'd always find the scenario where it's like, oh, this setting's a little too bright and this setting's a little too dim for the given circumstances of the current lighting. And these Alpha 3 sights, since it's all like 10 levels of outdoor lighting settings, I can always dial it in exactly to what I need for that given lighting condition. And it's bright as shit. Like I've never shot them at max level. Like I'm almost always running them at like level 4, level 5 out of 10 outdoors.
You have to play around with that much bigger dot. That's interesting. I mean, like I shoot a 6 now, which I think could go bigger and be happy, like an 8. I've never looked at a 12 to see, but holds the reason it would be fine.
Yeah, and so the brightness level that I run this at, it's dim enough that I can almost see through the dot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But since it's optically very big, it doesn't need to be very bright.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. I've noticed that if it's a much bigger dot, you can run with it at a much lower brightness. Because if you have a very, very small dot, you have to run it super bright in order to actually see it really well and track it really well, in my opinion. And so when you have a bigger dot, you can run it at that lower brightness, which, like you're talking about, Charlie, it's less bloom. You can actually see more of an actual circle as opposed to the star. And so I can see it. Makes sense.
Like at the brightness levels I run mine, it's at this 12 MOA dot. It is a clear, crisp circle. There's zero bloom at all. And that crisp circle, and the craziest thing is when I started running this crisp circle, is I was finding myself calling shots by a corner of the circle, if that makes sense. Because it was that crisp that I could say, oh, well, this edge of the dot was on this part of the target, and that was my call. Instead of like there's this bloomed thing that was streaking on this part of the target.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, that's an advantage for me. And maybe I see stuff differently than other people, but I really like that part about it, that I can turn it down enough that it is a crisp circle. The bummer about it is that at the lowest level, it is still too bright to use indoors.
That's coming.
Wow.
So when I shoot it indoors, I actually have to use the 10 MOA size dot, if that makes sense. And at the Alpha 3 with the 10 MOA dot, I run that on the lowest level indoors, and it's just, I would say, acceptable dimness, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like it's still a little bloomy indoors, and that's why like this pistol here, like this is the Athena. So I've been shooting this at the indoor matches. This has the 10 MOA dot on it, and then the 5-inch gun. It's basically like a Titan build with a bushing barrel in it. I use that on the outdoor matches, and that has the 12 MOA dot on it. So, and for me, like I ordered 2 more sights because like those things, like no dots last forever, and that the sight that's on the like Titan style build, that one has about 30,000 rounds on it, and it still functions, but it's like. I always kind of consider those things like borrowed time.
It's a consumable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it makes it through the first 1,500 rounds, it's going to last 30, and after that you're risking it.
Yeah. And it as much as it's a crapshoot, like I've had, just like you said, I've had slights fail within the first 1,000 rounds. Like I needed a 12 MOA dot. The only other vendor I know that makes a 12 MOA dot is Seymour. So like the RTS2s. So I got an RTS2 and a 12 MOA dot, and the glass actually busted out of it, completely flew out of it in like 800 rounds.
Wow.
And yeah. So
yep. They go early or go late. They never go in between. That's
Exactly.
that's the red dot. That's red
We're not
dot
great
quality control.
at the Goldilocks zone yet.
Yep.
Well, if
so
you
that's what I end up doing whenever I swap dots. That's what I do. I'm like, oh, extended practice weekend.
Yep. Make sure it's safe, and then
Put 1,000, 1,500 through it, and if it doesn't drift around or do any craziness, then it should be good.
yeah, I'm just getting to the point where my kind of primary gun dot that I'm going, it works great, but should I replace it? Because it's probably pushing 35,000 on it, right? And I'm like, just don't want to risk this.
yeah,
Swap it out, dude.
shoot it till it breaks at a level 1. Anyways, if you want something that's
Yeah,
going to
level
last
1,
a long time, head over to Dominate Defense and American Operator Gear. Use promo codes PARA10 and save 10% off of your fine concealment or duty belt or your competition Mach 1 Speedwell at Dominate Defense. Also, check out W74 Guide Rods. Kevin makes, a bunch of heavy
All the
things.
guide rods.
Yes, tungsten. They call him Johnny Tungsten.
Except for 2011s.
But for your odd stuff and for your tungsten batteries for your handheld flashlight, check out Kevin at W74 Guide Rods. Use promo code PARA10 and save 10% off your order. And check out Rune Tactical. Get a +1 in your gun. And so, hey, starting with 24 to 25 rounds, that's the way to go for a lot of stages out there in USPSA. Saving a reload can mean a lot, and it's a very affordable option to get at least one mag of yours topped up with that extra round. So check them out. All sponsors.
One mag, don't cheap out. Get all of them.
Get all of them. Top them all off. Use promo code PARA10 and save 10% off your order. Go to Telegram. You can ask us questions. We got a few questions, and then Kevin's got to get out of here. He goes, this one's from Ron Davidson, another USPSA match question. From a competitor standpoint, is a 64-round course of fire at a level 1 match fun or just too many rounds?
It really depends on how it's designed for me, right? It can be extremely fun. It could also be something you're like, oh, this is a lot of bullets for nothing.
See, and I'm looking at it from does it slow the match down?
Yes.
How does that work? It's like, oh, sure, this one stage is super cool and it has all this cool stuff, but the stage before it was 10 rounds and guys are finishing it in under 10 seconds, and then we have the next stage is a 30-second stage for the fastest shooter. Then you're like, oh god, the match flow is now boned. So it could be fun, but you're going to have to squeeze it in between other stages that it'll actually flow with. And also, like kind of what Kevin's saying, it depends on the stage, really. It could be fun.
And you got to think about shooters too, right? Like, because, throwing in challenges, so those newer guys get in there and they're 64 rounds on a plate rack, and you're like, here's some more mags,
right?
Keep going.
Grandpa can't.
What you're saying, Jared, though, is you need to do 6 stages that are 64 rounds.
So
match flow solved.
Remember, we used to do that. We used to do that New Year's Day match where it was the hoser match or something, where every single stage was 50 plus rounds, and that was how it was designed, and it was literally just like stacks of doubles of doubles of doubles of doubles down an entire line. And it's like, oh my god, my finger's tired at the end of this. But that one was fun because, one, you came prepped for it, you knew it was going to happen, so it's not like you show up and be like, oh god, I don't have this much ammo. And two, the other stages were all doing it, so it's fine. If every stage is 30 seconds, then your match flow is still good.
Here's my idea for the 64 round stage. You have 5 stages in a match, and you shoot that. The top 3 from each division then get invited to shoot the 64 round winner takes all
shoot
off. Because there's one thing I think we miss in USPSA is the American Gladiator final. Remember, they used to do the little things in American Gladiator, and at the end they had the huge obstacle course and they had to get through everything. It's it would be fun to have these matches where it's just okay, oh, I made it to the final, congratulations. And there might be 10 guys who are shooting that that final stage. And I think that would be kind of a fun thing to do. And like at nationals and stuff like that, like at Pro-Am, they always have like the home run thing at the end, and they have all these little different shoot-offs. And I think having just a freaking ridiculously large stage, which would require some planning and a high level of execution, would be fun for the top tier members of the sport to qualify into. Like, every sectional, every level 2 match should have a 64 round shoot off at the end of the match, and you should put bleachers on the back side of that thing so people could watch it, and I think it would be amazing.
Could be.
That would be fun.
If you did that in the club match, this is where I put my match director hat on. You'd end up with 3 dudes that have to tear down the whole match. Because everybody else is shooting, then to leave and be like, have fun with that big stage, guys. We're out.
You got 64 pieces of steel?
There'd be no poppers or anything on any other stage. They'd be like, well, can I use that mini popper? Sorry, it's got to go to the big. It's going to the big stage.
All the other stages are classifiers.
It's just they each have like one target stand, and there's 3 targets stapled to one target stand on each position.
Every single classifier is just, can you count? Maybe we'll throw TikTok in there to change things up.
It's just a stack of targets on the ground. From Itzik, sorry if I mispronounced it. Hey guys, I've been hearing some buzz about the new Bull Tack comp from Bull Armory. It's got both a ported barrel and a compensator, which sounds very intense. What's your take on it? Is this combo bringing something cool to the table, or is it just overkill?
Saying it's got what? It's got a comp
and ported barrels.
Yeah, so it's like the Staccato XC, but instead of just having the comp on then, it also has porting. So it's just like a full tilt open gun where you have the popple holes essentially. Yeah. So
what? So because 9mm is so powerful, or what? Like,
yeah, 9mm.
Well,
I don't know,
man. Everyone knows now that we can't just have whatever's there for the gun, which would be basic and sensible. The new generation wants all the things. How much does a starter pistol cost now? You would think $500. No, it's $3,000. Like if you're hopping in, you're joining freaking, you're joining Team Staccato or something else like that, and that's where you're going with it. So it's gone kind of haywire. You have to have all the things. Now, Charlie, you shot a lot of compensated guns in your day. Mm-hmm. Like the thoughts.
You need a lot of gas to run the comps. Like you need gas, like you need major power factor ammunition to actually make use of a comp effectively.
So,
and if, like, I hate to say it, but if a compensated 9mm minor power factor gun helps you manage recoil, you're gripping the gun wrong.
Yep.
That's reality.
I let you know what you're talking about, Charlie.
Calling ever people shot a gun before? Little bitches with little girl hands.
Well, the one thing I think about that, like if let's say like you took 115 grain and you got like the slowest burning powder you could put in the damn thing, because like this isn't something that you just, I got my new Bull Armory, and then you go get a 50 count of Federal freaking Champion off the shelf and you go shoot that. Is it going to run? We'll find out. But even if you grip it pretty well, I would imagine if it even had the gas to run the comp after it passed the port, you would almost start getting like a little bit of a dive down, or almost no feeling back whatsoever, because you're dealing with something that's a 35-40 ounce handgun shooting 9mm to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say direct this question to the humble marksman, because he'll probably actually get one and shoot it, and you can ask him. Whereas most of I have yet to see a Bull Armory in real life. I don't think anybody at our locals have them. I've never seen one.
You're not missing anything.
And that's kind of what I've heard. Is like, it sounds like they're on the level of Staccato, sometimes a little better, sometimes a little worse. And they have some full tilt open guns that do well enough. But I don't know, if you want to get that gun and if you want to do fun stuff with it and you have the disposable income, then go with God, buddy. But that's the big concern, I would say, is what's actually going to run there. Because once you put enough holes in your barrel, it's hard to fill up it's hard to fill up a bucket with all the holes in it. So I mean, I don't know.
To me, it's like it's could be a range toy, so it doesn't have a place in the sport, right? In USPSA or IPSC, right? I don't think they have, unless it's open, which it's not going to compete at, right?
Hey, he could shoot an IDPA carry optics.
But I actually think he's from Israel, right?
So yeah, he's from Israel.
So he's from Israel. So IDPA is, I guess it's maybe there, but he could shoot it there. I think it's a fun range toy, but from a defensive perspective, say you're shooting plus P, you maybe are doing that for a reason to get more velocity for your hollow points, and then you're comping it and porting it down and losing that velocity to gain some recoil control. I don't know. It just seems counterproductive. It might be a awesome range toy, maybe, right? But I just don't think it's.
Well, here's the thing I don't know about, and maybe one of you guys knows about it. If I shoot the bullet and it vents out of the port, right, before it gets to the comp is running off the gas that's, once it's left the barrel and enters the comp, it's technically out of the barrel. So the gas behind it, is it still propelling it that's being ported out? So am I losing more velocity once I pass the ports? Or do I lose velocity from the ports and the comp?
So the easiest way to think of it is like your velocity is going to be very indicative of barrel length. So like, let's say you had a 5-inch barrel and you slap a popple hole at the 4-inch point. You're not going to replicate kind of like 4-inch barrel velocity stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then when it enters the comp, am I losing more once it passes the barrel? No. Okay. Well, I mean, they're making it and selling it. Believe me, like 6 Hour has made a ton of stuff that people are just buying. So like we've gone from all I need is good sights and a good trigger to I gotta have this thing with that thing. Like my son, I asked him like, what kind of pistol would you want for your first gun? He goes, I want a USP or a 1911. And I showed up with some 1911s. He goes, no, I want that one. He's like, he wants a GI 1911. That's the kind of style he wants. It's like, that's right. Born in the wrong decade.
It's the Call of Duty. It's the Call of Duty guns, bro. When you play Call of Duty, do you ever have a gun that doesn't have all the attachments on it? You're gonna put every goddamn attachment you can on that thing. And so that's what's happening with real guns now, is like you have the Call of Duty generation coming up and they're like, why would I get this basic bitch gun when I could have a full prestige
with ports and a comp?
Ports, comps, extended mag, quick draw. Oh, 2 now, akimbo. It's great. This is a fun time. What else do you need in life, Tom?
A flip flop.
Yeah, exactly. Chonklet offense. I don't know. The more things that I see put on the guns from the factory, the less inclined I am to like. I don't know. Like I've officially turned old. Like I've
boomer.
I've officially turned boomer. It's just like I'm accepting of a light and an optic on a gun, but like my old mentor Masada Ayub, when people were talking about putting ports and comps on 9mm, he'd say yes to tame the harsh recoil of the 9mm. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, please, like if CZ, oh my God, CZ, if you bring out like a Shadow 3 that has a port on it and the thing's 60 ounces, is like, what are we doing? Whoa. What hellscape have we listed?
It's called marketing, dude.
I know.
It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to sell.
If it does, they're going to keep making it.
It's just like, is anybody here into motorcycles? Like dirt bikes specifically, right? If you look at dirt bikes, it's the same thing. And it's not just dirt bikes. It's like, oh, is it a dirt bike? Is it a trail bike? Is it a race bike? Is it an MX bike? Is it an adventure bike? And you get these people that buy a random motorcycle and they're like, I want to use it for this purpose that is a completely wrong purpose, right? You're going to get the exact same thing in the gun world.
Yep.
Every day we fall farther from the glory of God. That's all I have to say on the subject. It's just like,
buy it. That's what I'm going to say. Buy it. Don't be a bitch. Buy it.
I was just on the Bull Army website, and there are some nice things. Like here's my problem with life right now. I would love to have a great single stack 9mm 1911, but then I refuse to buy a single stack 9mm 1911, and I don't want a double stack because I don't want to play the freaking 2011 magazine game, and I'm not going to buy a platypus. I don't.
What's wrong with the 2011 magazine game?
Because Charlie, you know what's wrong with the 2011 magazine game. Don't do
Not
this.
anymore.
What?
Not anymore.
Yeah, what?
Oh, I
They're
know.
fine.
It took
It's 2024, Tom. It's
Well,
2024.
You can get the Bull Armory mags. You can get what's the one that the Prodigy uses? What's that mag design that they're using?
Shit.
Checkmates.
Something that they have, and then you have like the 2011 STI ones, and then like it's $6,000. It's just
That's the part of the fun, dude. Is just waste all the money on all the parts until you find stuff that kind of works, and then when you get it figured out, then there's the next gun. You got to do that whole process again.
Well, if anyone wants a gun now, they have what are they? Springfield Army put the Prodigies on sale with the dot for $1,400, and apparently they fixed some of the stuff that was wrong with the original set of Prodigies. So everyone,
What are you waiting for, Tom?
What? I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm all right.
I like that. I'm fine.
It's okay. If the hammer, listen, on a real gun that has a hammer, the hammer starts down. You pull the long trigger for the first shot, and then you get the single action for the rest of them. That's the way they were supposed to be made. And 1911s and 45, I'll also accept that. I'll take that. But these racing games, these racing guns, I can't do it.
Only the new TSUS CMP combo gun. That's actually kind of cool. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
So CMP.
Oh, is that the single stack with the double stack?
No. CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, the ones that normally sell the actual GI 1911s, but they're normally like, clapped the fuck out. They just commissioned TSOS to create a shit ton of GI 19
pre-clapped out.
Yeah, exactly. And
new factory
factory new clapped out guns
produced awesome.
by TSOS for CMP with all the Colt roll marks and stuff.
Does it come with a file?
Yeah, so you can see. Well, those old guns, if they make them to factories,
fantastic.
Those things are sharp as hell. They didn't melt the corners on those things. Like you would drop the slide, like you'd have your thumb on the slide stop, you press the slide stop, done, cut. You got cut because they just grinded the bottom off, cut them out, put it like
just get it out the door.
Nobody knows how good they have it. Where we've melted and rounded it, and then we put this nice coating over the end of it. Like those old guns are cool. They're a place in history. Lots of bad dudes got shot with ball by them in the 1920s and the 1930s and the 40s and the 50s. Like those are really cool guns. But especially for the new Zoomer generation who's got their X365 macro with a comp, the funny thing is, this is the best thing. This is the best thing I love. The funny thing is, you hand those kids something like a 1911 with Full House 45, and they look like a 10-year-old shooting it, and it's just like that's the revenge. Like when I hand somebody my 45 caliber 220 with its 10-pound double action pole, and they, pow, and then it's just like, all right, never mind. I'm not jealous anymore. I'm good. Thanks, everybody. Anyway, Charlie, throw out the website if people want to get one of the finest books about practical pistol shooting available.
Yeah, just bigpandaperformance.com.
Yeah, it's literally like if there's a few books to have on it, it's in my top 2 books of all time to have on practical pistol shooting.
The number one book I recommend to new shooters, right? Like it has everything you need to start and get a long ways. And
it's spiral bound for people who actually use their books. Open it, flip it up, put it on the back of the counter. You can look at it. It explains everything from movement to shooting and sight pictures and everything like that. It's a fantastic book. So thanks for joining us, Charlie. We appreciate it. Okay. For Kevin Isaac, Jared Stepp, Charlie Perez, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and souls. We depart into the open waters of the sea of life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Toodles.
Doot doot.
Bye.